This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Love it. I've been waiting for it to come. If you don't like the snow, well, I say move.
Manitobans woke up to a wintry wallop this morning. Several roads and schools were closed. Snowblowers and shovels were rustled out of storage for what was, for many of us, the first major snowfall of the season. Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us. Yes, snow has hit much of southern Manitoba in a big way. An Alberta Clipper brought with it a mix of annoyance and relief. As CBC's Josh Crabb reports, winter sport lovers, though, are rejoicing in our first real blast of winter.
Snow-covered highways made for some treacherous driving conditions. There were closures, collisions, and vehicles left in ditches. A storm dumped more than 15 centimeters on parts of the province. In Winnipeg, work to clear it all away began bright and early. Brian Barton shovels before the snow gets packed. It means going outside several times a day, but he doesn't mind. Barton's happy it snowed.
Love it. Love it. I've been waiting for it to come. I'm a cross-country skier, and you can't ski on grass.
Many cross-country ski trail networks, including here at Windsor Park and elsewhere in the province, haven't been able to open. There just wasn't enough snow until now, and skiers are itching to get out. Crews at Windsor Park Nordic Centre are packing and then tracking the trails, working hard to get the corduroy ready for eager skiers.
Fresh snow always feels like velvet.
General Manager Laurie Penton says they plan to open to the public Friday for the first time this winter.
And people who love to ski just love that feeling of gliding, going fast, and it's just very welcome. Fresh air is healthcare.
As far as he's aware, it's the latest opening date ever.
Well, I think overall everyone's very much relieved and excited about getting going on the winter season. Spring's going to be here really quick, so we're happy to see the snow in this amount for sure.
Skiers aren't alone. Some snowmobile trails were already open, but Snowman Executive Director Yvonne Rideout says this blast of snow means more clubs are grooming trails, getting them ready for the weekend.
As long as we can hold on to the snow we have, and I think with temperatures that will be certainly be possible this winter.
A cold snap is now expected to set in as city crews work to keep people moving on roads, sidewalks, and bike paths. Streets maintenance manager Michael Cantor says a major snow clearing operation is underway.
I would say it's an average major storm. Not too big, not too small, just a normal major event for us.
Barton says it's just part of living in Manitoba.
If you don't like the snow, well, I say move to someplace where there is none.
He's trying to enjoy every last minute of it. Josh Crabb, CBC News, Winnipeg.
In the meantime, we all have a new favorite expression: fresh air is healthcare. After that dump of snow, Winnipeg drivers need to watch where they park. Plows need room to clear the streets. The city has temporarily extended its winter snow route parking ban. Instead of the ban kicking in at 2 a.m., you now can't park on streets marked with snow route signs between midnight and 7 in the morning. If you do, you could be ticketed and towed. The city says it will make a call Friday about a residential plowing operation. Regular snow route parking ban hours return at 2 a.m. Tuesday. The Winnipeg Jets will soon face off against the Chicago Blackhawks, and a win tonight for the team would be their 8th straight, setting a franchise record. It would also keep the team on top of the entire league. Now, there's still plenty of games to play in the regular season, but we also have high hopes for the team after a disappointing end to their season last year. CBC's Brittany Greenslade has more.
But here come the Jets. Healers turning it on.
It's the halfway point of the season, and the Winnipeg Jets have hit their stride.
When you can find a way, to win more than you lose on a nightly basis, it is something that they can take pride in.
After 40 games, the Jets are leading the league, a standing they've yet to hold since the franchise started in 1999.
I think we're kind of looking forward and just trying to continue playing, to the best of our ability.
The team is on a 7-game winning streak, and while captain Adam Lowry knows it will come to an end eventually, he says they've set the bar high for themselves.
You can't expect to go the rest of the year, defending every game as well as we have, but that's kind of the standard we've set, and that's our expectations.
But it was at this point in the season where things took a turn last year.
Stamkos scores.
The Jets were in first place in the Western Conference at the time, but steeply slid, and eventually their season ended after being eliminated by the Golden Knights in just 5 games during the first round, spurring blunt words from coach Rick Bowness.
Overall thoughts, I'm so disappointed and disgusted right now. No pushback. But it's the same crap we saw in February. It was. That's why so as soon as we were challenging for first place.
This year, with a new captain and the re-signing of 2 key players in the fall, the team and the fans are hoping for a deep playoff run.
The Jets have been hard luck, and it's just glorious to see, Winnipeg at the top of the heap, but also just Canadian teams, Canadian teams with a legit shot at winning it all.
It's awesome, the way they're going right now, they can definitely take the league and take the Stanley for sure.
But GM Kevin Cheveldayoff isn't getting ahead of himself.
Anybody who makes bold proclamations at 40 games, hasn't really, felt the ups and downs and the roller coaster, of a NHL season. And there's going to be some dog days here. There's no question about it.
And there's still a lot of hockey left to play. Brittany Greenslade, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The future of the LeMay Forest remains in question tonight. A developer has plans to build an assisted living facility on part of the forest. Community members had hoped a city committee would vote to purchase the land. As CBC's Cameron McLean reports, that's not what happened.
What will become of this stretch of land along the Red River in St. Norbert? A push from residents to keep the LeMay Forest intact drew the support of the area councillor. But today, the property committee chose to take no immediate action on a motion by Marcus Chambers to buy the land from the developer.
Well, I'm disappointed in the outcome of the vote of the motion.
Chambers says federal and provincial dollars, $3.1 million, have been set aside to potentially purchase the forest. But the city and other community partners need to come together with a plan to do it before the end of the fiscal year on March 31st.
If a decision can't be made on these lands, they would have to reallocate those funds to other projects. So there is some time sensitivities here.
The chair of the property committee insists a deal can still be reached. The committee passed a different motion that would give the city's chief administrative officer the authority to acquire the land.
If you become aware that there is a group out there that has funds to buy up some strategic parkland, urban forest, and augment cities' parks, then please catch that ball.
Both motions need to go to council for a final vote. Meanwhile, John Winthrop, who represents Total Developments, says they're going ahead with their plans.
We submitted our development application today to move forward with a development application to subdivide and rezone these properties, and we look forward to a public hearing on this matter.
One local researcher says part of the land was once used as a cemetery by an orphanage, the Asile Richaud.
It's really important, I think, that the property be acquired, the cemetery be respected. At the very least, it's a burial ground.
While hopes for the city to buy the LeMay Forest may not be dead, the window of opportunity is getting smaller. The developer expects the city to make a decision on its application in the next 150 days. Cameron McLean, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Public health officials in Manitoba have a warning for you tonight. They say there's been a spike in meningitis infections. 8 cases of invasive meningococcal disease were identified in the past month. That includes 6 adults and 2 children. Officials recommend people get their kids vaccinated against meningitis. They say there's been a steady increase in strep cases in Manitoba as well. Last year, there were 200 confirmed Group A streptococcal cases, and that was a 33% increase over the previous year. A teenager who was fatally stabbed last night is now Winnipeg's second homicide victim of 2024. Police were called to a home on Arrow Street in the city's Tyndall Park neighborhood yesterday evening. 19-year-old Benessie Kennedy died after being taken to hospital in critical condition. Anyone with information or video surveillance is asked to call Crime Stoppers or the Winnipeg Police Homicide Unit. Officers are looking for an inmate tonight who escaped Stony Mountain Institution. 24-year-old Terry Dupko escaped during an escorted temporary absence in Winnipeg. He was serving an 11-year sentence for robbery, break-and-enter, and fraud, among many other charges. He's 5'11", 240 pounds. He has blue eyes and brown hair. He has tattoos on his right hand and right arm, and as you can see, a scar on his forehead. Anyone with information on his whereabouts is asked to contact police. Affordable housing remains a big concern across this country. Recently obtained documents show Ottawa was warned that a big influx of immigrants could add to our housing problem, but the federal government says welcoming new Canadians is key to economic prosperity. Marina von Stackelberg has this report.
As Canada races to build homes for its rapidly growing population, new documents obtained by the Canadian press show 2 years ago, Canada's Immigration Department was warned by its own staff. The country was at risk of making the housing crisis worse if it kept rapidly increasing the number of new Canadians it welcomed. Policymakers must understand the misalignment between population growth and housing supply, one document says.
This is the kitchen.
On a tour of new housing in southern Ontario, the Deputy Prime Minister was asked why Ottawa didn't heed the warning.
Canada is probably the country in the world which is the most welcoming of new Canadians, which is the most welcoming of immigrants. And as Finance Minister, I have to say, that is a huge economic strength.
Economists have been sounding the alarm, the warnings about these issues for many, many years.
This expert says the Liberal government has exaggerated the economic benefits of high immigration because there's an economic trade-off, as a ballooning population puts a strain on housing and other services, driving up costs.
I'm an immigrant. I certainly support immigration. There's lots of good that can come from immigration. But the idea that it's going to lead to all this extra economic growth, increasing rates from already quite high rates, just doesn't stand up against the evidence.
Canada's rising population is almost entirely fueled by immigration, especially temporary residents, usually here as migrant workers or international students. They are increasingly some of the hardest hit when it comes to finding housing.
The situation for housing is really bad for literally everyone, but I think international students are getting affected by this a lot.
Canada will welcome some 500,000 new permanent residents next year. That's nearly double the amount from a decade ago. As Ottawa points to billions of dollars it's providing municipalities to help them build new housing fast. Marina von Stackelberg, CBC News, Ottawa.
TechVoc High School has officially opened its state-of-the-art aerospace shop. The 5,000 square foot, two-story addition was completed in December at the cost of $4.3 million. Students will now be able to receive training on industry equipment that meets apprenticeship standards. Education and Early Childhood Learning Minister Nello Altamare says the new facility means students will be able to work in the industry right after graduation.
Really forward thinking here, right? We know that this is an important industry in Manitoba, so we have to have spaces to train people. And this is one of those spaces. This will be the premier space in the province to do this for kids so they can be work ready right when they graduate.
This new space will allow TechVoc to double enrollment in the program to 272 high school students and 43 adult learners. Manitoba and the country itself, Canada, are both considered leaders in the aerospace industry. Marjorie Dowhouse is covering weather for us again today, a day when weather is the big story, and it's pretty when it falls.
It is. It's pretty, but at the same time, you know, it's caused for some highway closures,
absolutely,
treacherous driving conditions, and now in behind it, we're going to see some extreme cold. But just moments ago, we got from Environment Canada some preliminary totals of what this Alberta Clipper brought with it. And take a look at this. Now, these are numbers that were gathered by the Coco Ross Network. These are volunteers who measured how much snow we saw during this storm. Winnipeg, anywhere between 10 to 20 centimeters. Matlock, 15 to 20 centimeters. 13 in the St. Pierre-Joli area. Between 7 to 10 in the Dauphin area. Again, these numbers are not official. We are expecting the totals to change because there is still some snow falling in these areas. Let's take a look now at this cute picture. I mean, why not have fun in this snow? This is from Brett Johnson. He says that his son Malcolm and his dog Lady are both much happier about the snow than he is. This was taken at 7:40 this morning while waiting for the school bus to pick up his son from the Luxton area. Absolutely adorable. Have fun with it while you can. Here's a look now at some weather alerts that we have. We have extreme cold warnings that are in effect for parts of Manitoba. To the extreme north, Lynn Lake, Brochet, and to the south, the Parkland region and the Westman region, so Brandon, Dauphin, Neepawa, Riding Mountain, Minnedosa. Wind chill values tonight could feel anywhere between -40 and -50, so that means that frostbite could happen on exposed skin in just minutes. So take some precautions if you're going outside, and also watch out for any pets and vulnerable people. Satellite radar right now, we're starting to see some clearing here. A little bit more cloud cover to the southeast here in Winnipeg. Seeing just a little bit of flurries, ice crystals being reported at the airport right now, but you can see clearing out there in the southwest. Futurecast now. So we're going to see the clouds stick around to a mainly cloudy sky, but the precipitation, the snow will start to taper off. Where we could see more snow is coming on Friday. We could see periods of snow, and then on Saturday, continue to see periods of snow. This will start to clear out late on Saturday, and then on Sunday, we're expecting to see a mix of sun and cloud. Right now in Winnipeg, we are at -18 at the airport. Wind chill feels like -29. Ice crystals being reported there. The wind out of the northwest at 24. Tonight, it is going to be a cold one here. We're under the risk of frostbite in the Winnipeg area. Low of -22. Frostbite, wind chill could feel like it's in the -30s. -18 tomorrow morning. Cloudy with some sunny breaks. Clouds not really going anywhere, mainly cloudy. Daytime high of -18 with the wind out of the north at about 30. Long range forecast now. Temperatures really not going to get above -20 for daytime highs. Periods of snow on Saturday, mix of sun and cloud on Sunday, and a high of -22. Sunshine on Monday, but we're going to continue to see a high of -22. And again, factor in those wind chill values, could feel more like -30, so the cold is sticking around. I'll have your regional forecast coming up, Janet, in just a little bit.
Thanks so much, Marjorie. The Winnipeg branch of the Animal Food Bank Network is now busier than ever before. In the past week, it's received twice as many requests as normal. Nicole Frey is the Transcona woman who, with her husband, created a network to take in and distribute pet food donations to branches across Western Canada. She joins us now from her home in Medicine Hat. Hi, Nicole.
Hi.
What difference does an animal food bank really make?
It makes an incredible difference. It is the difference between a human choosing to feed themselves or their pet tonight. We have surveyed our clients, and 70% of our clients, if we didn't exist, would have to choose who eats tonight. And it's also hugely impactful in preventing happy loved pets from being surrendered to shelters. There's about 65% of our clients have said that because we exist, they don't have to surrender their animal, which then prevents overcapacity or more overcapacity issues at organizations like the Winnipeg Humane Society, and allows them to focus on the unloved and unwanted animals.
What did you think when you saw the increase in requests this past week?
One of our volunteer branch managers sent me a message, and she said there's 70 requests in the queue, and I was like, no way. And I went and looked at it myself, and just my jaw hit the ground, and I thought, what are we going to do? We don't have enough volunteers. So I don't know what's going on. Normally we see it get really busy before Christmas, and then it kind of died down, and we're just seeing that ramp up continue.
Do you think it has something to do with the cost of living right now? That's kind of an obvious thing that people are looking for help.
Absolutely. The economy is definitely driving need. I think maybe the cost of the holidays is driving need. I talked to a couple of our clients yesterday, and one client had been diagnosed with cancer, so isn't working. And another client, her and her mom were facing homelessness. And so it's like such a mixture of reasons why I think people are accessing us, but definitely driven by the cost of living.
The Winnipeg Humane Society, I know, has an emergency food bank, and it says it's spending $1,000 a month more to keep up with demand right now. How are you in terms of food? Do you have the food you need?
You know, we were blessed with a really large donation of cat food, which never happens, just in the last quarter of 2023. And right now we're short dog food, which is weird. In the 4 years that I've been doing this, it's always the opposite. And so we're always looking for donations of food, especially if this level of demand continues. We won't be able to meet needs. So if anyone's willing to donate food or money so that we can go and buy food when it's needed, that would be great as well.
But you mentioned, do we have the volunteers to keep up with this spike in demand? What do you mean by that?
We don't have the volunteers right now. So when we started our food bank, we are a delivery-based model, and we've kept that operational concept over the last 4 years.
But what does that mean, delivery-based? Like you take it to people's homes?
Yes, we take it to people's homes. And not knowing anything about anything when I started, it was just an idea I had, and it works out really well. The majority of our clients face transportation difficulties, and packing big bags of pet food on a bus is, not the greatest, easiest thing to do. And so we have this model where drivers pick up from one of our volunteer branch managers. We have them stationed throughout the city, and then the drivers will take it to the client. And so right now we're short drivers to be able to meet the need of the 75 requests we have in as of today.
If anybody's out there and they have the ability to help, what do they do?
I would love for them to go to our website, animalfoodbank.org. There's a link to our volunteer Facebook groups, and then there's an opportunity for them to provide a monetary donation. And then there's a map of drop-off locations if they want to go to a partner pet store or partner business location in Winnipeg and drop off pet food. It could be used pet food, well, not used pet food, but opened pet food. As long as it's in the original packaging or new, just drop it in the bin, and then one of our volunteers will pick it up and distribute it to a family in need.
Well, that's fantastic. Nicole Frey, thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much for helping us spread the word.
Israel is being accused of committing genocide against Palestinians. South Africa is asking the UN's highest court to call for an end to Israeli military operations in Gaza. We'll have the latest on this story after the break. South Africa has accused Israel of committing genocide against Palestinians. The country is asking the UN's highest court to call for an end to Israeli military operations in Gaza. South African lawyers presented their case today at the International Court of Justice in The Hague. As CBC's Margaret Evans reports, their accusations have been dismissed as meritless by the United States and Israel itself.
The International Court of Justice in The Hague, the UN's top court.
Please be seated.
Far from the Gaza Strip, but the suffering of the Palestinians trying to survive there, laid out in painstaking detail by the South African legal team, arguing that Israel's military campaign in Gaza is being waged with genocidal intent.
Every day, there is mounting irreparable loss of life, property, dignity, and humanity for the Palestinian people.
Israel rejects the allegation out of hand and will answer it tomorrow. The Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, called it an upside-down world. Israel is accused of genocide, he says, while it is fighting genocide. A ruling won't come for years, and legal experts, including Michael Becker, say proving intent is extremely difficult, even if atrocities or war crimes are proven.
That's a distinct question from whether Israel is in violation of the Genocide Convention. But what South Africa is trying to do is show that these things are linked.
South Africa's team is clearly counting on the language of several Israeli leaders to demonstrate its case.
Not Jewish people or Israeli citizens, the government of Israel and its military is intent on destroying the Palestinians in Gaza as a group.
On 9 October, they gave examples, including this one. Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant early on in the war. There will be no electricity, no food, no water, no fuel, he's saying. We are fighting human animals. South Africa also wants the court to impose emergency measures ahead of its decision, including ordering Israel to stop its military campaign. That decision could come soon. Becker says he expects the court to agree to some, if not all, the proposed measures.
I think it would be very difficult for the court to turn a blind eye to the situation on the ground in Gaza.
Bring them home! The court has no power of enforcement, but the scrutiny of a watching world is so intense, it doesn't mean an order from the UN's top court would have no impact. Margaret Evans, CBC News, London.
Ukraine's president says his country has proven Russia can be stopped. But Volodymyr Zelensky says his country badly needs more help. He renewed his plea for more air defense systems today from Latvia. It's the last stop on a wider tour of the Baltic region. CBC's Briar Stewart reports from Riga.
Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky met with the president of Latvia this evening as part of a whirlwind tour of the Baltic countries, thanking the government for their support, but also sounding the alarm over what Ukraine says is its shortage over ammunition and weapons, including missile defense systems. Now, Zelensky has been making a diplomatic push for more aid, but it comes as support is wavering. There's a $60 billion aid package that is currently stalled in Congress and a $50 billion aid package that the EU hasn't yet been able to commit to. And in terms of the weaponry that's already been pledged to Ukraine, much of it actually hasn't been delivered yet. The EU has committed 1 million artillery shells. Only about a third of that have actually been delivered to Ukraine. Canada had committed an air defense system. In fact, it paid for it last year, but the system hasn't been deployed yet. It's produced jointly by a US and a Norwegian company. And it's here where defense experts say that Russia actually has a strategic advantage because its economy is on war footing. You have multiple factories that are working around the clock, producing ammunition, producing weaponry. And experts that I've been speaking with really do believe that throughout 2024, Ukraine is likely going to be on the defensive. That's why they have been building up their own defensive lines, barbed wire, even using landmines, trying to keep Russia from pushing back into land that Ukraine has spent months retaking. That's really the picture for 2024. And the other thing that Ukraine really needs is more troops. In fact, military leaders have said that they will need between 300,000 to 500,000 more troops. Ukraine is currently considering a bill. The parliament and the government is working on it that would basically outline how that would happen, who would get drafted, how many people, and they're also considering stricter punishment for those who try to avoid mobilization. Briar Stewart, CBC News, Riga.
Taiwan will have a critical presidential and parliamentary election in 2 days. Countries around the world are watching this very closely for one big reason: China. Philippe Leblanc explains.
One last appeal to voters. These are the closing moments of an election getting global attention. Amid fears of invasion, Taiwan's relationship with China is at the heart of things for the country's 19 million voters. China constantly intimidates us, she says. We must stand firm. But this man says that a significant part of Taiwan's economy depends on China. He's hoping for dialogue between the two. The presidential race features the leaders of three main parties. Lai Ching-te's ruling Democratic Progressive Party, or DPP, has close ties with the U.S. Ho Yui represents the Kuomintang, or KMT. He's nicknamed Beijing's candidate by some opponents. Ko Wen-je from the Taiwan People's Party also aims for some kind of talks with China.
The KMT says war versus peace, and the DPP says democracy versus autocracy. Obviously, those are oversimplified frames to try to appeal to voters. But we really do see that for both of their bases of support, that is genuinely how they see this election.
Warnings about China's election interference are frequent, from disinformation and economic coercion to daily balloon launches.
Social media platform,
This expert adds that with the increased importance of social media, especially China-controlled TikTok, disinformation is rampant and sows doubts about American aid in case of conflict. But domestic issues like inflation, housing, and road safety are also crucial for many voters. This woman says she hopes the candidates don't use the China question to avoid answering local policy issues.
Taiwan's future remains the most contentious issue between China and the United States. The result of the Taiwanese presidential election will then have consequences on the already tense relationship between the two superpowers. Philippe Leblanc, CBC News, New Taipei City.
Longtime federal politician Ed Broadbent has died. He was first elected to Parliament back in 1968, and then Broadbent went on to lead the federal NDP for 14 years. As CBC's Hannah Thibodeau reports, he always insisted he was an ordinary Canadian, representing other ordinary Canadians.
He was the type of politician Canadians felt they knew on a first-name basis. Ed Broadbent first ran for the NDP in 1968. He became leader in 1975. He moved the NDP to the left, and the NDP moved up in the polls. The 1988 election was a campaign fought over free trade, and it pushed Broadbent's NDP to the brink of a breakthrough.
Canadians are not about to build a Canada on the values of John Turner's vision of Bay Street as a replacement for Brian Mulroney's Wall Street.
Opinion polls prior to the election suggested the party was surging. At the time, Broadbent became the most successful NDP leader in history, with 43 seats. But he fell short of his own high hopes. There had been an expectation the NDP would at least become official opposition.
After an election, I sit down and I am with my wife here, and we think of what is good in terms of our personal life, what is good for my party, and what is good for my country.
The next year, Broadbent stepped down as leader. But his political career wasn't over just yet. After more than a decade outside of the House of Commons, he was lured back by Jack Layton.
Who's back? Ed is back. Say what?
And he reintroduced himself to a new generation of voters with a rap video.
It's time for voting, NDP.
And won a seat for the NDP in Ottawa.
If Jack Layton hadn't made a certain phone call last November, it wouldn't have happened.
In 2005, he announced he wouldn't seek re-election. He wanted to care for his wife, Lucille, who died of breast cancer in 2006. In 2011, he helped establish a political think tank aimed at exploring social democratic ideas, bearing his name, the Broadbent Institute. The NDP continued to turn to Broadbent for advice about the party he devoted so much of his life to. Hannah Thibodeau, CBC News, Ottawa.
When you think about athletes, especially NHL athletes, what do you think about? Money? You think about physical fitness. But what about mental fitness? After the break, we'll hear about a new initiative that aims to make sure hockey players get the support they need. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News. Physically, NHL players are among the fittest people on the planet. But that kind of physical fitness doesn't guarantee mental health. A new initiative is trying to make sure hockey players and their families get the support they need. The CBC's Katie Nicholson has the story.
Corey Hirsch gets ready to soak up the sun on the slopes. But during his NHL career, the former goalie was often in a much darker place.
It was pure hell, to be honest.
Hirsch detailed his struggles with mental health and a suicide attempt in a book 2 years ago.
The game itself wasn't the issue. The issue is the stigma attached to it. You know, the stigma of, of having to be, this tough man.
As more NHL players are starting to open up about the mental health challenges they face on and off the ice, its Players Association has launched First Line, a peer training program.
The program aims to really increase the knowledge about common mental health issues, things like depression, anxiety, addiction, self-harm.
Certainly we see this as a catalyst moment in focusing on and getting it right for our membership.
So far, more than 20 players from 5 teams have taken the training. They wear this pin so players know they're a safe space, someone they can turn to and start the conversation.
We're opening a door that hasn't been opened before.
Blake Wheeler, who currently plays for the New York Rangers, took the training after opening up about his own struggles with mental health.
The more willingness I had to get help and to talk to people and have conversations, the better my relationship with it became.
I wish it was available when I played. Maybe I would have had a much longer career, and maybe I wouldn't have gone through the things that I went through.
Hirsch says the program's fantastic, but needs to expand to make a real difference.
But it needs to be a mandatory training, right at the start of training camp every year. And the coaches and executives have to be involved.
But he says it's an important start in an uphill battle to change the culture. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, Toronto.
We saw problems with the supply chain during the pandemic. We see international shipping disruptions with climate change and political turmoil around the world. More people worry about Canada's supply of essential goods. The desire to improve food security has led to the creation of an indoor vertical farm in Calgary. Brian Labby explains.
A tray of micropeas, one of the first crops to be harvested at Goodleaf Farms. The facility covers 100,000 square feet. The company wouldn't let us take pictures, fearing the competition would copy their setup.
We have created an environment where we provide the plants with exactly what they need at exactly the time they need it.
The plan is to produce 1 million kilograms of leafy vegetables a year. Agreements are already in place with major retailers, and the company says these homegrown veggies could reduce our reliance on imports.
We are creating an alternative, a domestic alternative, to deal with Canada's food sovereignty. But our intent is to be an option to replace imports.
Canada imports billions of dollars worth of veggies every year, most of it from the U.S. Experts say these vertical farms are sprouting up at a time when some U.S. producers are struggling.
The challenge down there is that they're facing droughts and reduced water availability for irrigations.
The City of Calgary's food systems planner says there are about a dozen indoor vertical farms in the city. It's part of a strategy to help maintain supply in the face of events like pandemics and shipping delays.
The ultimate goal is just how do we create a more resilient food system? And there are many ways that we can do that. The indoor food producers are one way.
Goodleaf says it has enough room at this location to double production, something that could happen in the next few years. Brian Labby, CBC News, Calgary.
Marjorie Dalhouse joins us once again to talk about that extreme cold warning.
Yeah, we have some very dangerous wind chill values potentially here tonight. Pretty much all of Manitoba is going to see cold, but there are a couple areas that are under that extreme cold warning. Let's take a look. I'll show you where they are right now. Starting in the north, Brochet, Lynn Lake, looking at wind chill values that could feel anywhere between -40 to -50 overnight. So that means frostbite on exposed skin in just minutes. This is now extended into parts of southern Manitoba, including the Westman and Parkland areas. So Dauphin, Riding Mountain, Brandon, Neighbourhoods. You can see how far it stretches east. It goes west all the way to the Saskatchewan border there. Again, wind chill values could feel anywhere between -40 to -50, so very dangerous. Taking a look now at current conditions, ice crystals being reported in Winnipeg right now at -18. We've got light snow falling in Brandon and Dauphin, currently both at -23. A little bit warmer out to the east, -13 in Pinawa, -15 in Sprague. Ice crystals right now in Thompson at -27, -29 in Flin Flon, -27 at this hour in the Pas. Northwestern Ontario tonight, well, that snow that we saw here from that Alberta clipper, it's headed your way. You're looking at snow overnight. 2 to 4 centimeters of snow depending on where you are. Light snow in Fort Francis. Overnight lows, you can see they're around -20. For us here in Winnipeg, the Red River Valley and the Interlake, we're looking at flurries starting to taper off. Some areas like Steinbach could see some local blowing snow because we are seeing north winds still pretty gusty at between 30 to 40 kilometers per hour. Overnight lows around -20. Factor in that wind chill could feel more like -30, so there is the risk of frostbite. Extreme wind chill expected to hit the Brandon and Dauphin areas. The snow should end for you this evening, and then you're looking at partly cloudy to mainly cloudy skies overnight. Up north, looking at some light snow in the Pas and Flin Flon. Thompson, overnight low of -30, clearing in Churchill, and a low of -27. Tomorrow, looking at some snow in Flin Flon and the Pas, 2 centimeters of snow expected for you. And then we're looking at mostly cloudy conditions for much of the north. For southwestern Manitoba, you're looking at some light snow in Dauphin. Periods of snow in Swan River, high of -23, mostly cloudy in Brandon at -21. For us here in the southeastern corner of the province, -17 in Winnipeg, -16 in Steinbach, and increasing cloud. And again, factor in that wind chill. There is still the risk of frostbite tomorrow. Wind chill values could feel like the mid-20s to actually -30. And then we're looking at a chance of flurries out in northwestern Ontario. Daytime high of -14 in Kenora, -17 in Red Lake with just a few flurries in Dryden at -16. Your extended weather forecast coming up in just a little bit, Janet.
Thank you very much, Marjorie. So what do you think? Does Manitoba's provincial flag need a new look? A poll wants to hear what you think of the current design. We find out what all the flap's about after the break. It's a question some people have been asking for decades. Does Manitoba's provincial flag need a makeover? The Manitoba Vexillological Association wants to hear your thoughts on this. It's currently conducting a poll to gather your ideas about the flag and if it needs a redesign. Lucas Stratton is the founder of the MBVA. Hey, Lucas, thanks for joining us.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I have to start with a confession. Before your association put out this poll, I had never even heard the word vexillological. What is it that made you love flags so much you wanted to become a vexillologist, or whatever it's called?
Yeah, no, good question. It's definitely a super niche topic. Most people, like you said, have never really heard of it. I guess my own personal interest just kind of came from my love for history. Growing up when I was a little kid, I loved kind of reading about history and the Middle Ages and everything. And then that got me kind of into coats of arms and heraldry. And then naturally that just leads into flags. And I guess I just preferred flags.
So why is your association, the MBVA, asking if people would like Manitoba's provincial flag to be redesigned?
We're curious, really. We've been seeing a big trend on the internet of people redesigning flags, and every once in a while someone else will ask a question, does Manitoba need a new flag? And now down in the States, we've seen a few states in the last 5-ish years redesign their flags officially. So we thought now is a good time to kind of get to the bottom of the answer once and for all.
What are your thoughts on the current flag?
Yeah, I'm kind of in two camps here where I could see both arguments for keeping it and, redesigning it. Obviously, it's doing its job well from certain points of view, of course. It is representing Manitoba. A lot of people do love it. But then it's also doing some things not so well. It looks almost identical to Ontario. It can be hard to distinguish. So I can see the merits to both sides.
So how can people participate in the poll?
Right now, we're nearing 1,000. We're hoping to get as many as we can. So it's going to be open for another week and a half. We're going to keep it 2 weeks minimum. But yeah, nearing 1,000.
And it's on X, or what used to be Twitter?
Yeah. You can find us on Twitter or X at official_MBVA. And the poll will be in our link in our bio there. We're also on Instagram and Facebook, whatever you could think of.
What happens if the majority of respondents vote yes?
We're not sure yet. So we are conducting this poll as a standalone. We just want this data with no intention moving forward of redesigning the flag. Some people seem to be maybe a little confused that this is a government poll or something like that. It's not. We're just a private group interested in if people like the flag or not. So we're going to take this data afterward and then discuss with the group. And if it's an overwhelming majority who want a redesign, then we may in the future petition the provincial government for that. But as of right now, that's not the plan. We're just wondering if people like the flag, yes or no.
Lucas Stratton, founder of the Manitoba Vexillological Association, thank you for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
Marjorie's back with your 7-day forecast, and we'll have your daily lift in just a moment. Stay with us.
Well, after the snow comes to an end tonight, cold is coming. High of -17 on Friday under a mostly cloudy sky. The snow returns Friday night, periods of snow on Saturday and a high of -21. We'll start to see a break in that snow on Sunday. Mix of sun and cloud, high of -22. You can see their daytime highs, Janet, do not really get above -20 here. Sunshine returns Monday and Tuesday with highs around -22 and -21. Well, Elvis fans in Australia are all shook up.
She looked at me because I'm an Elvis fan. 25,000 people are heading to the Outback right now for the annual tribute festival to the King. Here's your Daily Lift.
Stick because stuck on it.
Okay, this is Sydney, where the festival bus leaves from, but it's actually taking part in Parks, Australia. The King himself would be proud to see scores of hip-shaking, wig-wearing Elvis fans hopped on the Elvis Express from Sydney. They're heading on a 6-hour journey to the event. Along the way, they're apparently treated to a steady stream of Elvis-themed entertainment, featuring tribute artists and iconic encrusted jumpsuits. This year's theme, Marjorie, is the 1957 musical drama Jailhouse Rock. I've never before heard it called a musical drama. About 25,000 people, as I mentioned, attend this yearly celebration. I worried that it was going to be stinking hot there. I thought because it's the height of their summer and it's the Outback, but it's only like 30 degrees as a high.
Not bad. Not bad at all.
Have a great night. Dream of 30 degrees.
Good night.